So here we have the 55-inch LG C3, as you guys can clearly see right there. And we're going to take a look at what they have on the box, is what they're advertising. They're advertising the Gen 6 Alpha 9 processor. This does have the Evo panel, so they are talking about 20% brighter, which we're going to have to test. The thin QAI, that doesn't seem to have changed at all in all the years that I've known LG. And 2023, all the other things that they have, like Apple AirPlay, Apple Home, Alexa, that kind of thing. And yeah, they are, basically saying they are the #1 OLED for 10 years running. And yeah, so let's get this thing unboxed and see what it's all about. Looking at the back, it's basically the exact same design that we had last year on the C2. So it's literally copy and paste at this point. I don't expect there to be anything different about the way that they've designed it this year. Ports are even in the same exact spot, as you can clearly see. There's nothing new whatsoever about the way that they've created this display. So if you like the design of the C2, the C3 is going to offer more of the same this year. Accessories this year are pretty minimal, as you can clearly see. This is the remote that you get. It's the same remote that kind of has been a thing for the longest time on LG. I don't think anybody expected anything differently, so if you like the Magic Remote, more of the same. They aren't fixing what isn't broken. The stand can be a little bit tricky, but what you want to do is you want to find these thick screws, not your little M4 screws. And one of the ways I'm able to tell the difference is the M4 screws obviously being significantly smaller without robust grooves to screw in, and they also have the washers on them, where the other ones, the thicker ones that you're supposed to use, don't have any kind of washer or anything on them. And as you can clearly see, the screw-in point is much more robust. And that's going to go into the bottom here. And in addition to going in the bottom here, it'll go here as well. And then once you're done with that, then you're going to flip it over. And from there, you're going to want to screw in here, and then again right here. And that's how you put in that part of the stand. Again, this little piece slides in more like a credit card slot, and it just literally goes right into the stand. That part's easy, and again, you just put those 4 screws in. So once that part of the stand is done, then you're going to put the back of the stand on into the little grooves here. You can notice that you have it right because you see this little connection piece at the top right here go into that little groove. It's exactly like the C2 from last year, and then you just drop your 4 screws into the back, and that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, LG really just doesn't care, so we still have a built-in wire instead of like a detachable adapter. So unfortunately, you're still going to be limited in the way that if anything happens to this one wire, your entire unit needs to be repaired or replaced. So that's not ideal, but again, I didn't really expect LG to take criticism or feedback in an area of opportunity to improve themselves once again. So now we're in the main menu or user interface for the LG C3. Now it looks very similar to what we've seen before off of the C2. We're gonna hit the OK button on the wheel.
Okay, language, English, check.
Then it's gonna ask us for English. It's like hyper sped up too. I don't know what that's all about.
Next, button. Audio guidance is currently turned on to assist the visually impaired. Do you want to keep audio guidance turned on? Yes, no, no. Button.
We're gonna make sure we turn no on so we stop the whole audio guidance thing. And the region that it gives us is automatically the US. It's not really giving any other drop downs. So I know in the past some people have been able to select different regions. I think this is one of the first ones I've seen that doesn't allow that. So we're gonna hit next. You can select time zones though, so I'm gonna select New York for EST. Now it's gonna ask you if you want to set the TV up with a mobile device or if you just want to use the TV, and I'm just going to use the TV as my main means of setting it up. But of course, if you are more inclined to use LG's, I think it's SmartThings app. Well, that's Samsung. They have their thin QAI. You can use it however you want. I'd rather go this route, just doing it through the TV, so we're gonna do that. So after you put in your Wi-Fi information, it's gonna ask you all of this legal stuff about terms and conditions and things like that. You can either read through it or you can just disregard and skip, and it says you must agree to the terms of service in order to use the TV feature. So it's really up to you. But the nice thing is that you're not really forced into agreeing. So you don't have to if you don't want to by any means, and that's great. Now I'm just gonna hit next, and then I'll select all of the stuff that matters, and then go back in and make sure that we kind of go one by one. Viewing agreement, voice information, interest-based ads we don't really want. I don't know what about the who, what, when, where agreement and all that other stuff, but I think these three are the main ones that you have to select, though you'll probably get forced to do all of them at some point if you want to use this, because now it says agree at the bottom. I wonder if I take off this one and that one and that one, if I'm able to still agree. So I can still agree, and there's no shortage, so that's nice. Now it says user environment analysis, and this is where it'll be checking for HDMI-based devices. And I haven't really fully hooked up my 360 that I have off to the left here, but you get the idea. It'll try to do it, but then it'll say obviously there are no devices. So just make sure you have it all set up. And it's going to ask you what environment you want to use. I'm just going to put none, right? If it'll let me select it, none. And then they want a zip code, which I hate this part of the process, but then from there you just kind of put in your zip code. Now it's going to ask you if you want to have it mounted on a wall or if you're going to have it on a table stand. So just put stand for me. And now it starts with the AI functions. AI Picture Pro, I always recommend you turn that on. And for AI Sound Pro, I usually recommend turning that on as well. And then you just skip past the annoying music. Now it's going to ask you for the power on screen options if you want to start with like your home interface, which I hate. So I do recent input to avoid the hub basically pulling up every single time I turn on the television. Now it's going to ask you for the always ready function, and basically the whole idea here is it's just exactly what it sounds like. It's always ready if you want to use your remote control instead of, magic remote. It's whatever. I don't know. I believe this is more for those who want to use more mobile device features, automated features, but I don't really use the always ready, if I'm being honest with you. I never really lean into the AI aspect because I don't really want always ready, which to me, it's a lot like Google with their, okay, Google feature. So yeah, I'm just going to skip right past that because I don't really care for the automated stuff. Now, automatic software updates, go ahead and turn that off. I don't think that if you're anybody who is happy with your product that you should be updating. They tend to cause problems from time to time. So I won't necessarily be trying to update right out of the gate. And then they'll ask you to sign in. I never sign into an LG account. So now we have some sort of demo that pops up automatically. That's kind of nice. It's not really much of a demo. It's just explore the world of your LG, kind of like after the fact. But that's new this year. We didn't have that last year. And so some change, I guess, is good. Recommended apps you install. I'm just going to go with YouTube and we're just going to install. And it'll take us to the apps place. I think actually I did have an LG account because that's the only way you're able to install, if I'm not mistaken. And it says, would you like to turn on Wi-Fi to install these apps? Why not? After all, we have to get a good idea as to how this thing works with internal applications. So it's important. Now, this is probably going to take a while. I don't know why it's taking a while, but it is. It's only 45 megabytes, but clearly something went wrong. So I'll have to do troubleshooting on my end and then go from there. So I never could really figure it out, so I just gave up on that altogether. And this is basically the Smart Hub. It's pretty much what we've seen out of LG before. We're going to open up the settings wheel, and you kind of have like that fast settings option, if you will. This year, if you click the settings button there, you have your screen off, which is always useful when you're leaving a room and things like that, so that you don't get burnt in or things like that. So that's always nice. Now, what I want to try to do is I want to open up the actual settings wheel and look at some of our picture options. So they have personalized picture wizard this year, which is basically based on your, so they claim, based on your preference, that will determine the image quality on attributes like brightness and contrast, and using AI deep learning depending on what picture mode you're in. Energy saving mode can be changed and so on and so forth. But I mean, I don't really trust the automated stuff too much. I'll experiment with it to see what it does, but I don't want it changing things and using AI to kind of constantly adjust my settings for me. That's never been my thing. Now, the modes we have this year are personalized picture mode. So their way of trying to make things more automated. This is a brand new feature for LG this year. It is not in any other product that they have, unless of course they come out with an update, but by default, this is new. Vivid, standard, those things, very typical. Auto power save, that's usually called APS. They just now made it longer and didn't abbreviate it, but it's in every single LG for the most part that we've seen. Cinema, sports, game optimizer, and filmmaker mode. Then of course your ISF presets of bright and dark, and that's basically it. So it's pretty robust in terms of your picture presets. I usually like to start off in cinema mode. It's usually where the better picture lives, typically out of the gate with these kinds of things. Now, if you go into the advanced settings under the brightness tab, let's see what we have this year. So we have the typical contrast, black level, auto dynamic contrast, peak brightness, which you can go from low, medium, and high. That's good. Your gamma adjustments, you have 1.9, 2.2, 2.4, and BT1886. So a ton of options as usual with LG. Can't access the video range until I go more into the video range options, but we'll get to that. And of course, for color space, you have native, you have dynamic, and Adobe RGB along with auto detect. Now, one nice thing that I like with LG's is the secret menu. I've talked about this for a few years now, and it's basically when you go here to your, basically hover over the select mode and you type in the code 1113111, it'll open up the HDMI signaling override if you have an HDMI device hooked up. But as you see, I don't have one hooked up, so it doesn't really work. Again, we'll show this off when an HDMI device is hooked up, but again, if that doesn't work for you and you're just using internal apps like I'm doing here, as you saw, it didn't do anything, that's why it's not working. I usually get a lot of people saying it doesn't work, and that's why it doesn't work. Now, again, it could be like maybe firmware takes it out down the road. So that's why, again, I always tell you just turn off auto software updates to avoid that kind of thing. But for the most part, you should be fine. Okay, so then of course you have your sound selection options. We're going to test out speakers, but they still have all the same options that they did before. And for the most part, this is the same LG that we kind of have seen. Then under AI service, we turn on Picture Pro. AI Picture Pro is basically your processing. You never want to turn that off. And then your AI brightness settings, always turn that off. AI genre selection, those type of things you want to turn off so that you're not running into any issues. In terms of you have the perfect settings and then it's going in there and thinking you want something different because either you're using the picture preferred mode and it's using that wizard technology that they have this year, or they're just using general AI to try to computationally guess what they think is correct. Again, that's open to interpretation. If you already have good settings, then you definitely don't want it messing them up. So that's what I would say there. And then of course, OLED Care is where you have all of the other features that you have, where you can go into care settings and then you can go into comfort mode and kids mode and stuff like that. Device self-care, you have memory optimizer, self-diagnosis, but the most important part under here is OLED Care, which is where of course you have your pixel shift or pixel cleaning, which will kind of help you if you're experiencing some sort of burn-in. So it says, I've never really needed to use that feature on any LG, so I can't say how effective it is or isn't. And then you have logo adjust, which is low and high this year. Now we're going to go over more in the way of like the picture settings that you can get into, but for the most part, this is what it offers. So all in all, I think it's okay. But next time we come back, we're going to get something on the screen, but that's pretty much the setup for this particular display. So let me know what you guys think, and as always, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'm Brandon Honesty. Until the next video, I'll see you guys later.